Hey, hey, happy Sunday. So, this is kind of random, but I stumbled across this article that was, I guess, addressing a topic I've been thinking about kind of over the last few days, the topic of romance. And this article basically, what it was saying was that essentially men are more romantic than women, which goes completely against all the things that I've heard. Um, just from day one, right? This idea that, usually women tend to be the more romantic one. And while I feel like the pressure is put on men to be romantic and it's put on men to kind of show forth, to show their love, whether it's for Valentine's Day, which is generally the expectation is that the man's going to go and do something for his lady, and from the engagement process, like the expectation is generally put on men to be the romantic one. But the way I've always heard it expressed or seen is that, like, yeah, women are most definitely they're the romantic one. They are the one who are thinking about these things. They're the one that are most intrinsically romantic because they're in touch with their feelings. So this is the topic that I wanted to discuss. I wanted to go a little bit more into detail as, like, are men or are women more romantic? What does that even really mean? So this particular article, like I said, that I mentioned, I saw it on Psychology Today. And what they said was that men end up being romantic. Men, believe it or not, it's men who usually end up being the ones who marry for love. So I just wanted to read a few things. They're saying that it suggests that, yeah, that the male attitude towards love is actually a bit more romantic. And they define that by different things. Let me see if I can go down to it. Let's see. For example, so it said, for example, this study found from Psychology Today, this study found that no, it was men who were actually more romantic. For example, they said if you look at love at first sight, a survey that tested 100,000 adults, 48% of men said that they fell in love with a woman at first sight, and 28% of women said that they fell in love with a man at first sight. Another instance, let's see, they said when it comes to who said "I love you" first, men had more were happier and received more satisfaction from hearing the term "I love you" versus women. And then they go down to express why. Their argument was that biologically, women, if you look at the way I guess we evolved, women, because we were children, and if you get pregnant, you're basically out for the count for 9 months. There's a lot more risk involved for a woman who falls in love than a man, because a man essentially can go out and have different love partners, and they're not necessarily be tied down to a human in its body. Whereas a woman, if she falls in love and then she gets pregnant, then she's basically down for the count for however many months. And so their argument was that biology lends to this idea that men essentially have the luxury of being romantic, whereas women, they tend to be more cautious when it comes to romance because they have more of a risk. And let me see if there's a few other things that they mentioned. Let me see. Yeah, so there's this argument that it's, but some of it's evolutionary, some of it is social. You see, and that, yeah, the risks are much lower. But at the end of the day, just again, this is just one survey from Psychology Today. They showed, yeah, men tend to be the one who are more romantic. Men tend to be the one who actually want to be in a relationship for love, whereas women tend to be more cautious. They tend to be slower to opening up. They tend to be more, they tend to see more risk involved. So that's just one report. There's also another video I saw. Shout out to Bernard Riley. I saw his video where I think he was reviewing an attorney. I don't remember his name, but this was a divorce attorney, and he said the exact same thing. And his argument was that of the different couples that he had worked with in their divorce cases, that majority of the times the men, they married for love. They fell in love with women and they married them. They weren't necessarily thinking of the business, the legal side of things. And so when the divorce came, right, and there wasn't a good prenup, or there wasn't things that were established, it, for them, for a lot of the men that he worked with, it caught them off guard because they married the woman for love. They fell in love with her. So there was never this idea of, okay, if this business deal goes wrong, because they weren't seeing it as a business deal. They were seeing it as, this is a love forever. Whereas a lot of the women that he had worked with, they were more cognizant of what could happen if things went south. They were more cognizant of the fact that, okay, God forbid this marriage ends, I may still be financially well off. The courts are in my favor. And so I'd heard another basically report that was around that idea that, believe it or not, although the expectation or I think the common narrative is that women tend to be more romantic, or women tend to be more in touch with their feelings, the evidence shows that it's men who tend to marry more for love. And then even if we think about who initiates divorce, I want to say it's like 70% of women are the ones who actually initiate divorce. And so that alone suggests that if you're in love with a person and you want to be with them and you want to work it out, I don't think you're going to be so quick to divorce. And why do we have so many women who are just quick, or who are the first one to divorce? Why is it not more of an equal share? Let me see. I have a few comments. It says, men are still hopefully romantic in regards to relationships with Black women. Yeah, no, I agree. There's men that I know who still, at the end of the day, although things are really difficult out there and it's really rough, they still desire to be with a woman. They still, at the end of the day, would like to be with someone who wants to be in their program, who wants to work with them, who wants to, be by their side. Let's see a few others. These days, it might be slightly more men being romantic, but more guys are realizing most women have a sex partner, so owning her is not worth it. That's true. That's true. Women want more romance when they're older, hence the term, where have all the good men gone? Even on that thought, where have all the good men gone? So again, so these are just a few things that I've seen to suggest that, that say that men are more romantic than women. I think these are just a couple of things that I've been thinking about. As I mentioned before, the expectation is certainly put on men to be the romantic one, right? When it comes to Valentine's Day, it's always marketed towards the men. Like, hey, don't forget the flowers, don't forget the chocolate, celebrate her. It's always, Valentine's Day is very, very, very much about the man. About the woman, receiving from the man, right? Again, the engagement process. When we see this on Instagram and social media, the engagement process being all really about the woman receiving. And even I remember I even put this post out not too long ago, and I was like, hey, should more women propose to men? And, I got a few pick me comments. I got a few, no, man needs to do this comments. Although we supposedly live in a society that's equal, and we supposedly live in this modern context where men and women supposedly can and should do the exact same thing. Not saying that I agree. I don't agree that men and women should do the exact same thing. That's just me personally. But under that idea that we can, if we want everything to be equal, then it's like, yeah, women should be proposing just as much as men do. Because if that's what the society is pushing for, why wouldn't they? But even when I said that, I had a lot of pushback, and people were like, no. Women were just like, no, you're a pick me. This should never happen. Men should always propose. And then I saw a few men chiming in and being like, look, women have already gotten too much power. They don't need to be taking this either. So I got mixed reviews there. But generally speaking, the expectation is put on the man. It's put on the man to create this engagement experience that is Instagram worthy, or to create this whole, event or day or moment that is Instagram worthy. That's most definitely put on the man. That is not put on the woman. And, and I wonder, okay, even when we think about the weddings, of course, that is very much about the women. I have yet to talk to a man that's been like, yes, I was so excited about a wedding, or I grew up dreaming about my dream wedding. Like, I've never met a man who said that. I've met plenty of women who have said, I've known the dress I want to have. I've known the wedding I want to have since I was a young girl. So again, the wedding experience even is about the woman. And so I wonder, is it are men socialized to be more romantic because there's more of an expectation put on them? Is it biological? Is it both? I mean, what does it even mean? Okay, looks like I have a few more comments in. Um, yeah, men realize it is cheaper to keep her. Women are more into feelings until marriage, and then men get sappy, self-included. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Where in our culture, there's so much of a push towards weddings. There's a lot of emphasis on wedding, getting married. You have entire shows dedicated to women getting married, but there's nothing out there about women actually being marriage material, about how to actually sustain a marriage. What are the qualities that a woman needs to be a wife? What are the qualities that are needed to actually sustain a relationship long term? That's None of that is talked about, and I think that's a big problem. And I think that goes back into this whole emphasis that is put on romance sometimes, that can be very Disneyfied, for lack of a better term, or it can be very fantastical, but it's not real because no one, like, every single day isn't a fairy tale. Every single day doesn't need to be filled with this excessive idea of romantic notions. I remember, I think it was last Valentine's Day, where there was this big thing with Sukiana, the rapper Sukiana, and her, I think, fiance or whatever, where she was so butthurt because he bought her some flowers that was like $50, and she's just like, you could have spent more on me than $50. And like all these women were chiming in like, oh my gosh, this dude is a dusty. I can't believe he just gave you some flowers. Like, he could have done better. And then of course they were juxtaposing that with what Michael B. Jordan had did with his with Lori Harvey. And it was this like big thing. And I remember looking at the situation and being like, okay, but I actually thought this was about love. Like, what's wrong if he got her flowers? What's wrong with that? Like, why does his love actually have to be correlated to how much money he spent? Because in all those comments that I saw, and all the women who were bent out of shape, like, oh, he's not romantic, he's not this, he only got you some flowers. I'm like, what to me I'm seeing is like, okay, so love is only equated to how much money he spends. Is that what romance is? And that actually brings me to my question. I mean, what really is romance? What is it truly? Um, and I want to look this up actually. Like, what does the dictionary define as romance? Because I think there's a definition of this, right, in the dictionary, and then there's a reality of what it actually is. Let me see. Um, Let me see if I can find it. What does it say romance is? Um, okay, so one version says, okay, romance. This is dictionary.com. A novel, movie, or genre of popular fiction in which characters fall in love or begin a romantic relationship. So the first definition here I see of romance, according to dictionary.com, is basically a story based upon fiction, which is a story based upon something that is not real. So let's just be clear. Romance, the first definition here is a novel based upon a fictitious story, something that is not real. So that's one. Another one, again, a novel or other prose narrative depicting heroic or marvelous deeds, romantic exploits, imagery, etc. So again, a lot of these definitions I'm seeing is, okay, here's a novel, this is a story, this is a fictitious story. Let's see. I see romancing, to court or woo romantically, treat with ardor or chivalrousness. To court the favor of or make up overtures to play to. Okay, so there's a few different definitions, but the first couple of definitions, according to dictionary.com, they show romance as this idea of a novel based upon a fictitious story, something that is not real, something that is made up. I think it's important to note that. Okay, looks like I had a few more comments. Let's see, love equals money for a lot of Black women. I think in a lot of women, period. I think you're right. Love equals money in this. Let's see. I guess I got a lot of ones in here. I was Mr. Romantic, but I realized women don't want that ish. Now they keep it moving, just have my fun and call it a day. Yeah, that's true. From what I've seen anecdotally, I haven't done a study on this, so I'll start there. I probably should, but what I've seen in this society, romance most definitely seems to be linked to the amount of money spent. The amount of money spent or the amount of money given in a romantic gesture. Because as I mentioned earlier, just that one prime example of Sukiana, her fiance, who thought about her, got him some flowers. And I'm thinking, that's great. Like, she got flowers, they get to spend time together. Like, that's cool. And she was like, she had created this entire video where she was so butthurt. She was like crying or something, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did this, yada, 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 yada. And you should have seen the amount of women who were just like on her side, like, you should leave him, he could do better, yada, 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 yada. And then, you know, we have the literal opposing idea of that, which is Michael B. Jordan and the lavish Valentine's Day he gave for his girlfriend, Lori Harvey. And to me, in that instance, I'm saying, okay, here's the idea of romance, the modern day idea of romance a lot of women have, which is linked to usually a big bill, a big monetary bill. And it's interesting to me, you know, that I'm looking on literally the definition of the dictionary of what is romance. And the first thing they say is, yeah, this is a novel based upon a fictitious story or a fictitious storyline. And I'm like, the foundation of that is, this is fictitious. This is not true. This is not true life. And I think one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest issues that we have when I think of romance and what it means today. What I'm not saying is that, you know, people who are in love, or men and women, shouldn't have fun, that they shouldn't have moments where they are enjoying each other. I think they absolutely should. What I think is problematic is that today, for what I believe, this idea of romance has devolved truly into who can spend the most amount of money. And it's interesting that in a pandemic, when so many people have lost their jobs and so many people are struggling and so many people are living paycheck to paycheck, that the idea of romance has not changed. That if anything, it's gotten worse. If anything, you see more people trying to front, more people saying, oh, well, he bought me this, or I secured the bag, or this dude got me this. Like, I feel like while the economy is and people are struggling, instead of us seeing people adjust their ideas of what love and romance is, we see people, very many people, I think, actually increasing the delusion, increasing the fantasy, increasing this fictitious idea. And, you know, it does not help that we have an entire billion-dollar industry dedicated to selling movies and selling, you know, television series and shows based upon this idea of romance, this fictitious idea of romance that 90% of the time is based upon how much money a man can just shovel out to a woman, which does not always equate to love, does not always equate to true love. It looks like I have some more comments. Yeah, exactly. I know very few women that are wife material, although they think they are. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And it's sad to say that. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest issue is that there is such a push. There is such this expectation that every woman deserves their big day. Every woman deserves their love, or this or that. And there's never an expectation of what does it require to build a household? What does it require to work with a man, to build him up, right? To actually get along with his vision. No one wants to talk about that. Everyone wants to talk about, okay, a partnership, you know, we're going to be equal. And I'm just like, even when I think about this, most men, I don't want to speak for all, but from what I understand, most men aren't necessarily looking for a partner. They have guy friends for that. They have coworkers for that. They're not looking to marry a business partner. They want a wife. They want someone with feminine qualities who's going to work with them and be cooperative and who's going to help support the vision that they have. Especially if he's a godly man, he's going to want a woman who's going to help support the God vision that they have, so they can build a godly family. And there are clear roles that are to apply when you're wanting to build a godly family. But I mean, either way, if you believe it or not, I don't really know a lot of men who are just like, yeah, I'm looking for a partner. I want a co-partnership. I'm like, I thought they just want a feminine companion. I think it's a little bit different. Okay, let me see. There's a lot more comments coming in. Yeah, many men would be willing to go the extra mile. Yeah, okay, I see this one definition of romance: a quality of feeling of mystery, excitement, and remoteness from everyday life. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's illusion, and men are recoiling because of it. Yep, that's true. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, wife material has no meaning because of the way women act like. Um, yeah, I had so-called high-value six-figure woman. I lost my job in 2019. She wanted to pay on my bills. Yeah, that can be, and that even can be complicated. So yeah, so as I said, this idea, this conception of romance, even though the economy has gotten worse and a lot of people are struggling, it hasn't changed. The desire to live this lavish, luxurious lifestyle hasn't changed, and a lot of it is founded upon fiction. It's not founded upon reality. And what's interesting to me, the downside that I believe about social media is that it gives us the ability to instantly compare our lives or a walk of life with um, with a false reality, with an illusion. Because I mean, even if you think about Instagram models, I was listening to something. I like to listen to O'Shea Duke Jackson every so often because I think he's just hilarious. And he did this video earlier today where he was talking about struggle Instagram models and how majority of these Instagram models, influencers, or whatever are living in little studio apartments that don't even have a bedpan. But they're projecting this luxury lifestyle. They're projecting all this luxury, but they're relying upon money that they get in the DMs, or they may rent a house and go take photos, or they may go on one vacation and then take hella photos on that vacation and use that throughout the year. Like it's again, you're projecting this luxury lifestyle. Because all we have to do is look at the stats and know the majority of Americans are actually struggling. Many people are not, they're not living that lifestyle. And the problem with social media is that, there's a lot of women, many of us, who they get caught up in that matrix, and we go online and the first thing we see is, oh, the Kardashians did this, or, oh, wow, look at how this movie star, this multimillionaire movie star, look what he did or how he treated his girlfriend. Meanwhile, we have absolutely no idea as to what's going on in the relationship. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We don't know whether or not that relationship is scripted or whether or not that act of love is scripted. We know nothing about it. All we see is a cute picture and a caption, and it's like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I think without us knowing it, we see that every single day. And the problem, I think, is the immediacy of social media allows just normal, everyday people to compare their lives to the top percent, to the elite, to the people that many of us don't have access to, and they compare our lives to things that aren't real. Because no one ever posts. It's rare that you post, hear people posting about their bad days on social media, or people saying like, "Oh, I lost my job, let me post about it," or, "Oh, I had a horrible fight with my significant other, let me post about it," or, "Hey, I look horrible, I broke out in my face, let me post about it." Like we don't ever really see people talking about their bad moments or expressing the totality of their experience on social media. We rarely see that. And so I think that's a big problem because many of us today, especially in the line of online dating being dead. That's a whole other thing. A lot of people aren't dating these days because of COVID, because of the pandemic, and because there's so much tension between the genders. I think the best thing that can happen is that now we turn to our phones, we turn to our computers, we turn to television to get our conceptions of what a romantic relationship looks like, versus actually getting in one and establishing and deciding what does romance mean to you or what does love mean to you. And that's a big problem. And so if romance is based upon the chick flicks that are shown on television, right, and the different Married at First Sight shows that many of us have been addicted to, me being included, they're based upon all these little false things, and there's zero to no training about how to actually be a wife and what true love actually means, and how it has nothing to do with the amount of flowers that you get on an everyday basis. I mean, if that's all that we're seeing, then it's like no wonder the truth is that probably women aren't really the most romantic. It is men who are marrying based upon love, because many of us women we're being told things that are just not true. We're being told things that are not meant and that cannot actually build a relationship long term. And I think that's problematic. I see a few comments. Yeah, right. No one posts their unemployment check or overdrawn blank account. 100% facts. 100% facts. And they were saying, gosh, I have to go and find the stat. But I read something recently where, even this idea, that's another thing I want to touch upon lately. This, like, even the concept of the gender wage gap, right? Because I've heard, you hear so many, there's no good men out there. A lot of these dudes are dusties. Women are outpacing men, so you hear that in one conception, and where it's just like, wow, there's not men out there good enough for me on my level, right? So I hear that a lot of the time, especially in the Black community. But then in the same token, you hear, okay, but gender wage gap. Men are making more money than women. So I'm like, well, okay, so which one is it? Are all men broke and therefore no man is good enough for you as a woman, or no man is good enough for me as a woman because all men are broke and they can't be our definition of romantic? Or is it that men are making more money than us? Because I'm like, to me, the two arguments don't coincide. You can't cry poverty that, oh, men are making more money, gender wage gap, but at the same time, okay, all men are dusties. Makes no sense to me. But that's something else I need to actually look into. I'm trying to look at the gender wage gap because I feel like there's a lot of competing arguments on that, and I'm trying to get a little bit more deeply analytical on that side. But let me see. Okay, man is the only one that have to go out his way to showcase that he cares. A woman just changes underwear and gives. That's true. I would say the expectation is certainly put on men to perform, not on women. Oh yeah, you're right. Don't forget to like the video. I keep on forgetting. I think you're supposed to like the video. Please like the video. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for any of your contributions. Some of you guys have been so kind to contribute to this channel via Cash App. I certainly appreciate it. We're definitely trying to get more things. The goal is to have more content like this and then be able to have a better quality of content, over the next few weeks and months. So I appreciate all of your guys' support. Let me see. Let me see. I'm getting some more comments in here. Yeah. Oh gosh, and the video vixen. That's so. Yeah, Cardi B married but behaves like. Yeah, that's a whole nother idea. It's crazy. I saw this video earlier today that was sent to me, and it was this lady who was 48 talking about, her argument was men are unromantic. So because men are unromantic, therefore women need to act like hoes, and they need to go and sleep around with as many men as possible because men are unromantic and they're feminine. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And what was crazy to me was that this woman, she was 48, and I'm like, this is a grown woman. Like if she was 18, I would have been like, okay, you're young. Hopefully you get out of this phase really soon. This is a grown woman over here talking about men are trash, men are dusties, men are effeminate, therefore women, you need to go and be a hoe, basically. And I'm like, what is the logic in that? What is the logic in that? But I mean, I don't think she was married. And to me, I'm like, I was really disturbed about that because I'm thinking this woman is almost 50. And why are we having conversations about, okay, women, here's how to raise a family. Here's how to actually raise kids, or to raise, help raise kids so that they can be well-meaning and productive adults. Why aren't we having those conversations? Why are there so many more conversations about how to secure the bag and how to get a high-value man, or, how to get men to pay for you? But there's not a really big push on women. Here's how to effectively raise your kids. Women, here's how to be a good wife. Here's what it takes to be a good wife. I'm like, why don't we see a big push for that? Certainly a lot of self-love advocacy, plenty of that. Certainly a lot of self-love or free love or sex positive, plenty of that. But no one wants to talk about being a wife. No one wants to talk about what that actually means. But we certainly want to talk about a wedding, though. We want to talk about the wedding dress, and we want to talk about that celebration and that ring. People want the ring, but no one actually wants what comes with it. People want to be a queen. People want to be called queen, goddess, but no one actually wants the responsibility associated with being a queen. And I'm like, why aren't we actually talking about the responsibility here? I don't understand. Let me see. We got some more comments in. Yeah, Ajimaj are not what you think they're modeling, sis. That's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah, women should be wise. Listen to your take on things. It's not being a pick me. It's being able to understand the landscape and understand the dynamics of what things are the way they are. Thank you. No, I agree. And this, this isn't even really about me trying to be right, or even really about me trying to, because my intention is never to just go after anyone and just be like, oh, I think she's horrible or her content is trash. Although there's plenty of content out there that I think is trash. But there's a big problem. There's a big problem when there is such a lack of understanding between what it is that men and women want and what it is that we actually need to work together. And I wish that there was more conversations about us working together instead of there always needing to be a need to be a competition. Like even when I think of the notion of a gender wage gap, whether or not it does or doesn't exist, because based upon what I've researched so far, I'm literally seeing opposing views. So I need to research that more. But even if we think about that, okay, men are here, women are there. I'm like, I feel like okay, women are outpacing men in education. Okay, Black women are opening the most businesses, like all these things that I've heard. I'm just like, why is the competing force in the conversation always the opposite sex? Why are we now in a situation where we're working together? Because it used to be a time where it was families working together. It was men and women raising kids to work together to move the society forward. And I'm like, I wish that was a discussion, because this isn't working. This whole, oh yay, I have this education, or hey, I have this, or I'm doing this, I'm a woman and then a man is not my equal, therefore, like this whole competitive nature that has been created is not helping. It does not seem to be helping, because if you have women who are almost in their 50s creating content to younger women saying, hey, younger women, men are trash and they're effeminate, therefore you need to act like a man, that's not helping. That is not a recipe for a successful society and successful families long term. So I'm like, I'm much more concerned about people being like, we got to get out of this illusion, this matrix that you can just, that especially women can go around and have as much sex as possible and have all these, just fall into this dizzification that many of us have had and not think this is going to affect us and not think this is going to impede our ability to actually have a healthy relationship with men and raise healthy families. And unfortunately, in an ideal scenario, we could look back at the older generation and say, okay, teach me how to be a wife, teach me how to be a mother, teach me how to, work together with my husband, teach me what it means to have healthy submission, teach me what healthy communication. And in an ideal scenario, these are the things that we would learn from our community and our parents. But many of us, we're coming from broken homes, and it's like we're just coming from just a widespread mindset of delusion, and it's like we're having to like build from ground one is what I feel like. So okay, let me see if I have some more comments. And there is no competition in delusion. Okay, on that point, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because and this actually brings me to another topic. I can remember so often you hear, oh, this man was intimidated. This man was intimidated by me. This man was intimidated by me. I made too much money. Or this man was intimidated by me because I'm a strong, independent, whatever. I've heard that argument a lot. And I used to actually believe that when I would talk to a woman who she was with a man or somebody, and then somewhere down the line, it's like, oh, he was insecure. He couldn't handle, he was insecure and he felt bad about my level of success. I used to buy into that. I used to be like, oh man, like, yeah, there's a lot of insecure men out there. And I wouldn't really think secondly about it. But upon further investigation, I'm starting to believe that from what I know, I don't really know a lot of men who are intimidated by a woman just because she makes more money. If they can even find one, because still, if we look at the stats, women are, I think, generally more poor than men. I mean, women are more in government assistance. So generally speaking, if you pull a random man versus a random woman, the man's probably going to make more money. Like just, but okay, but even if the woman does make more money, I don't know a lot of men who are just like, oh, she makes $5,000 more than me, I'm intimidated. I don't even know I don't even think, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even think that's enters a man's mind. I think what can be annoying is if that money is used in a way to try to make you, or to try to make her feel as if she's better than the man in the relationship with. And I've seen that happen. And I've seen a woman who has more money than a man becoming a reason for her to control and becoming a reason for her to manipulate. And I think that is something that is a person can have more of a negative reaction to than just simply, oh, he's intimidated by me because I make more money. I don't know if that's actually true. It looks like I got some more comments in. Yeah, men aren't intimidated. They just don't want to hear a woman bragging and trying to throw it in his face. Women love, right. That goes back to my point. I think that's an illusion. This idea that like, oh yeah, she made for money. Now I'm scared. I'm like, well, I don't know if that sounds like it's a fallacy. Men don't care about her money because it's hers always. Again, facts. Someone says, yeah, I've dated some women that made more than me. Yeah. Women are more romantic, which can also raise false expectations in women and thus resentment. Okay, so yeah, you believe women are more romantic. I had earlier on in the broadcast, I had said that there were some reports that suggested that men were more romantic and that they had the tendency to marry more for love. Reason being, biologically, if they're saying, if you look at biology and evolution, the reason being is that men have less of, they say there's less, what's the word? Risk. There's less risk associated with the men falling in love with women, whereas there's more risk for women. And so women tend to be more cautious and they tend to be more pragmatic when it comes to love. This is just what I heard from Psychology Today and from also a YouTube video that took the same thing. I did not by any means do a full-blown academic study on this, although I might. So more to come. Let's see. Yeah, my ex made more. It's the woman projecting how she wants to intimidate man. That's true. That's true. Women expect romance. Men provide it. Yeah, that's true. I agree. I think there's a social expectation that men are to provide. And that makes me to another question. Like, is it that men actually want romance? Because like for women, romance is generally associated with, okay, he bought me this. He did this really nice, special, kind thing. And I'm like, is it that our conceptions of romance are different? Because I mean, obviously men and women are different. We're created different. The way we communicate is different. Our need is different. But then also each person is different too. Like some people, they feel loved when they're touched. Some people, they feel loved by being given gifts, you know? So is it that men and women even have different ideas of what romance is? And they express it differently? Or is it that, you know, again, there's a social expectation put on men that, hey, you have to be romantic. And so therefore they tend to rise up to that expectation and live it out. I don't know, just a few things I thought about. But yeah, like I said, you know, going back to just even this concept of romance and what it means, which I think it's come to mean money and how much money is spent on a particular that you love. And that expectation is generally put on men to fit that bill. Not to say women can't do it, but it's like if a woman gets flowers for a man on Valentine's Day, like I just don't ever really see that. I'm not saying it'd be bad, but it'd be kind of weird. It's like, I mean, it'd be weird if she was the only one to do it. Like if she was bringing him like flowers and candy on Valentine's Day, that'd be like, oh, okay. That's you just don't see that. You don't see that marketed. Advertising ploy, 100%. I mentioned this before. You know, I worked for an agency a few years, and I can remember, or just I've worked for you know, companies in my past life, and yeah, the whole thing was we were always marketing to women. Like all of the marketing campaigns were geared towards women because they were like, okay, these are the people who buy our stuff, so let's make sure we speak to them. How do we create a campaign that speaks to them? So that was like, at least in my experience, that was everything that I saw and experienced was us talking to women to get them to buy stuff, saying things that they wanted to hear that made them feel special or connected so that they could buy stuff. So, yeah, definitely on the marketing ploy. And then, yeah, chivalry, woman killed chivalry. Yeah, I remember doing a post on this not too long ago on like, a chivalry dead? And, you know, that's such a complicated question because I don't really know that how can chivalry exist when in a society that says it wants to be equal, it can't. Because the whole concept of chivalry existed when in a society where there was hierarchy, right? And this is men's place and this is women's place. Women was in the more submissive place. Therefore, the it was the man, or it was the authority, right? That was gracious enough to I guess condescend to the level of his inferior, right? Which it would have been the woman. It was in that context of hierarchy where men are here, women are here. Okay, men did these certain things because she was seen as a weaker vessel. But I'm like, if we move the idea of like, okay, men are superior, women are inferior. If we remove that and we say, okay, men and women are equal, there's no longer a need for, a superior or inferior force. They're on the same plane. So at that point, both should be chivalrous to one another. So I'm like, at least for me, how can chivalry exist within a society where everything is supposed to be 50-50? And that goes to another question. Do we actually really truly want a 50-50 society? Do we want to go out on the oil rigs and build things? Do we want to go be drafted off to war? Do we want to take dangerous jobs where, our lives are put on danger? Because do more of us want to be put in the police force, right? Or, just doing those hard manual labor jobs that require a lot of strength and require a lot of guts? Because those are the implications, right? When things start to become truly 50-50, those are the implications. So, and then how does that even work? How does that even work now when it comes to, okay, maternity versus paternity leave? Because women get more of maternity leave right now than, generally speaking. There's some men now, they may get like a month. I've seen like the longest, but okay, if it's 50-50, does that mean now women have less maternity leave? Or does that mean men get longer? Like, if we truly want it to be equal, what are the implications for that? And that should mean either chivalry is dead, or, okay, woman, she's opening the door for a man this time. Okay, now I'm paying for you. Okay, and then you're paying for me. Okay, that means if I'm in danger, I'm going to go out and put my life on the line this time. Next time we're in danger, you're going to do it. Like, it gets really, and that's why I personally am like, I don't know if I'm really for the 50-50 equal kind of thing setup, because we're not the same. Men and women aren't the same. We're not supposed to be. That's why we're better off probably working together versus trying to compete to be the same. That's just a bad idea. But I digress. Chivalry depends on the relationship between that woman and that man. I do agree. That there are certain people now who they may choose to practice more traditional roles, or they may choose to practice more. They may choose to practice more, I don't know, modern roles. I've seen that, and so I do think at this point it depends upon the individual person. But by and large, as a culture is concerned, no, I feel like chivalry is not. Nope, chivalry's not there. Women love to choose when they want equality. I've heard some people argue that feminism is really about female supremacy. It's not actually about equality. It's now about female supremacy. When we look at, everything from the divorce court, the family courts, the legal structure, even from the body positive movement, just certain things, the rights to win abortions, like they're like, no, feminism is actually about female supremacy. It's not actually about equality. This is what I've heard. Women like chivalry, yes, definitely. Man, no one ever cares about Father's Day. Men are always on afterthought. That's real. No, that's real. Mother's Day is always, man, that's a big thing. Father's Day is kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it is Father's Day. But Mother's Day is like, no, you can't miss that. And again, even when it goes to marketing, I think of the different marketing campaigns I've done and the amount of money I've spent. And this is because companies know on Mother's Day, there's going to be X amount of millions of dollars that are spent. And so we have to market, and we need to prime these customers in such a way to buy so that we maximize income. And I think companies also know on Father's Day, it's not just much, as much of a bang. People just don't spend as much money there. I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know if this goes back to the way it's marketed. But yeah, very, very, very true. So anyways, this has been a really good conversation. I think I'm probably going to do a bit more of a deeper dive on this, because I think there's a lot that is under the umbrella of romance and how men and women interact in today's society. But I just wanted to, I just want to talk about this. So I saw that article and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And I think this is something that needs to be touched upon. But as I mentioned before, my hope and my goal is to be able to have these kinds of conversations, because I think there needs to be a space where men and women can talk about the things that are getting in the way of us communicating healthily, um, just attacking some of these lies, and hopefully getting to a place where we can communicate better and actually start to work together. I just don't like the idea that we live in a culture of competition where it almost seems like in order to be loyal to your gender, you can't like the other one. I don't like that. I don't like that. I think it's bad. And I think a lot of women, especially, need to be given the freedom to be like, hey, you know what? I want to throw away this entire modern concept that I've been shown. And maybe there's some good things about it, but there's also a lot of bad things about it. And I don't want to feel the pressure or feel the burden that I have to do that anymore. And it needs to be okay to say that. I need to be okay to say, hey, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with the fact that um, I have to hate men, or I have to say men are despots, or I have to, like, I don't agree. It needs to be okay to be like, I don't agree with the modern mainstream narrative, and that be okay. So we're going to have more conversations like this for sure. But thank you everyone who took the time to stop by. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate any contributions or just for being here. I know you could be listening to literally anything else, so I really am just grateful that you've taken the time to stop by. And as always, if you have any like just topics that you want to discuss, feel free to let me know. And thank you for listening. And yeah, we'll definitely talk later. Okay, bye.